Okay, so I know this video sounds crazy, but I want you to hear me out before you leave some crazy comments or whatever. So, is AI art overhated? I think the most important thing to do is stay what my actual opinion is. So, 0. My concrete opinion on AI art is that it's not bad by itself since it depends on how it's used. Now, 0.3. This is another evolution and tool for making art. It's never going to go away, and one day consumers won't mind the use of AI in art, let's be honest. So, I feel like a lot of the discourse around the AI art is worried about how it's going to replace everybody and everything like that, and that we're all going to lose our jobs and there's no point to being an artist anymore when the AI is just going to exist. Now, I think that's just fear mongering, because there is a big point to being an artist. The main thing about being an artist is being creative, and the fact is an AI can't be creative. I feel like that's a big that's just a massive point that a lot of people, I feel like, might just be ignoring. So 0.5, what are the actual downsides to this technology? 1, who does AI actually replace? Now, the people that AI replaces are people who do art uncreatively, as in commissioners, for example. AI will probably replace commissioners, because all doing a commission is a guy walking up to, not literally, but texting someone online and being like, hey, can you draw this? And then they're like, sure. And then the commissioner's like, yeah, you gotta pay me like $30 or something. That's all it is. The commissioner just brainlessly listens to whatever the person who they're commissioning for asks of them. That's pretty much the whole point of a commission. You just draw stuff for some money and then you go about your day. That's not a creative task. You're just being told exactly what to do for some cash. And second, the other group of artists that will be replaced are certainly NSFW artists. Now, I'm not sure if AI can draw NSFW yet. I don't think it's allowed to. Like ChatGPT, I know it has very extreme restrictions on the AI, and personally, I'm just gonna be honest, I didn't really research that. I find NSFW content to be very repulsive and bad, so I didn't really do a lot of research on if it can draw NSFW. But if it can, and whatever it does, the fact is that that's easily one of the least creative jobs. And in that, I would guess that people aren't really thinking about, oh, is a human drawing this? Did a human get paid for this? No one cares about that. Nobody is gonna go online and be like, I want humans to draw NSFW, and that's why AI is nobody is doing that, because that's embarrassing and, quite frankly, very sad. Because the fact is that being an NSFW creator who gets all their money off of NSFW is very sad, and most people don't want to do it. That's also a fact. Most people are actually probably ashamed that they draw people having sex all day so they can get some crumbs and some dollars off of it. Again, that's not a very creative job, because nobody's thinking about the creativity when it comes to pornographic content. They're just thinking like, I want to goon because I'm a degenerate. That's all they're thinking. So the third kind of person that will probably be replaced are possibly in-between artists. I only say possibly because right now, in-between artists, if they use AI, will have to go back and clean up a lot of the issues, if there are a lot of issues. That's why I only say possibly, because in-between artists are still useful for that at the very least. You can put a keyframe there, and then tell it, hey, do everything in between here, and then it can do it. In fact, we're gonna see this soon with the anime Twins Hinahima. I don't know if I'm saying that right, because it's the next word is Japanese, but it's called Twins Hinahina. Now, I've seen the trailer. It looks pretty good, and I've also seen how they decided to actually develop the anime itself. I actually, during the creation of this video, decided to do some more research on Twins Hinahima, and I learned that it's more like CGI. It's more like a VFX kind of thing. It's like that rock paper scissors anime that VFX crew made. I'll be putting it on the screen. It's like that, where they pretty much use the AI to rotoscope, but how they created the AI was they basically trained it on their own drawings. They basically trained it on their own character designs, their own art style, and all of that. And in-house, they used it to rotoscope onto CGI models. Now, the anime itself, it looks kind of mid. I'm not gonna lie. There are some parts that look really good, and then there are other parts that don't look very good. But yeah, in the future, I can definitely see this being used, like how the rock paper scissors anime thing was created, and like how This was created to better affect when the AI is better, and possibly with a bigger team that is more diligent in fixing the issues within the anime with what the AI does. The fact is that they have to really clean it up. They have to really make sure that these in-between frames are not messed up, because if you just look at a raw AI creation of the in-between frames, they're all messed up because the AI is not powerful enough yet to make perfect in-between frames, and it probably will never be. So they still have to go back and hire people in order to do them in the first place. Or I mean, not to do them, but to fix the in-between frames that the AI makes. And that's why I said earlier that, let's be honest, people will not mind the use of AI in art one day, especially when it comes to in-between frames in animation, which, if you know anything about animation, those are some of the most labor-intensive, hardest, time-consuming frames to do in all of animation. If there is some kind of program that I can just have a keyframe in the front and then the next keyframe after and just generate frames in between and fix those frames, I would do that immediately. That is so useful. And guess what? Most people probably don't care about that little process because most people are not animators and artists. Most people are just looking for something that looks good and has a good story. That's what they're looking for. They don't really, especially when it comes to anime, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So 2, why are people scared of AI art? Now, I think that people are scared of AI art because I'm personally not scared of it, because I have a lot of creative ideas that I want to enact with my art. I have a lot of things that I want to do that I know are pretty unique, and I already do them on my Battle Catch channel with the animations that I do in different styles and everything, and of course the comic that I want to make in the future. But I think that people are scared of AI art because they just draw stuff just to draw. I think that's a big reason for it, because if you just draw stuff to draw, that's not creative. You have a creative skill, but you're not doing anything creative with it. And with a lot of creative skills, you have to actually be doing something creative with the skill. You can't just be drawing commissions or whatever and then expect in like 2030 to still be getting money off of that, because guess what? The AI is probably going to be incredible by then. You have to actually do something great with your art. You have to do something creative and interesting with your art instead of just drawing people's characters and stuff like that, or just drawing nothing or whatever. Because the fact is that even in the future, I don't really see AI being so consistent that it alone, without any person adding on to it, which is again why I say it's a tool, I can never see AI alone consistently making like a comic, or with consistent looking characters or consistent looking backgrounds and all of that, or even text, or even understanding text. I can't see an AI doing that because it has no grasp of what's actually going on or what you're actually trying to do unless you explain it in painstaking detail. That's the fact. So either way, just like the twins Hiname anime, you're always going to need some kind of human involvement in the project, because again, AI is a tool. You can't just type in make an awesome story with cool visuals and then it's just going to make an actually awesome story with actually cool visuals, because it's going to fail, because it needs human inspiration and human involvement every time. I know this because I actually use the AI a lot, and with the comic I'm trying to make, I even just for fun tried to tell it, hey, can you make a chapter of my comic, or hey, can you make dialogue for my comic? And every single time I do something like that, it's always infinitely worse than something that I already have done, that I can do, and always goes in a direction that's not as good as what I can do. It's never really any good, and it's never really anything that anyone would ever publish. It's serviceable, sure, but it's not really that good. That is, unless you really direct it and push it and you have a very specific vision for what you're trying to do and tweak it endlessly, then maybe you can generate something good. But basically, every single time, you're going to want to create your own thing instead of relying on the AI and just telling it, hey, I want my story to go this way. No, I mean like this way. No, actually, I want this character to say this. No, actually, you did. No, it just makes more sense to make your own story or create a project instead of relying on the AI. So what I'm saying is that if you're using your ability to draw uncreatively, then you're boned. If you're not using your ability to draw uncreatively, then you're not boned. That's basically what I'm saying. 3. The meat of the issue is that art isn't special just due to drawings. It's also special because of the unique thoughts and ideas presented by its creator. AI does not have unique thoughts. AI does not have unique ideas, and it cannot present basically anything because it can't really even think. The AI being will act in the way that you tell it to because that's all it knows. The AI being will generate things in the way that you tell it to because it's all it knows. But when you tell it to generate something unique, it will be derivative of something else that it knows off of the internet because it has that infinite knowledge. Now, that infinite knowledge of everything that's on the internet is really useful for if you're trying to maybe upgrade your ideas, like how I personally have. Like personally, I workshop some ideas with my comic with the AI because of the fact that it knows literally everything on the internet, for one. For two, it can actually suggest me some shows that I could watch that's like my comics, so I can get some inspiration. And for three, the AI can perfectly memorize everything about my story, everything that I have written. And so I can just call back on so I can be like 7 chapters in and I can call back on like chapter 2.1 or something like that. And it'll be able to reference that and be like, yeah, in comparison, and actually give me criticism and stuff like that, which is actually useful. I've actually found use in that. And I believe that with that, my story is a little bit better. Now, I'm not saying that the AI can even write your story because it can't do that. It's always inferior to anything I can do, but it generally is actually kind of helpful whenever I'm trying to do stuff because I don't really have anyone in my life that knows every single part of my story or would want to know every single part of my story so it can understand the context and what I'm trying to say and get at when I do something specific that happens in my story. And by what I mean that art isn't special just due to drawings, I mean that if you just draw, that's not at all special, because with drawing, unlike a lot of other skills, it's what you do with it that makes it powerful. And I say it's unlike all other skills because, for example, if you're a mechanic, then all you have to do is be a mechanic and you'll be fine. If you're a doctor, all you have to do is provide medicine and tell people what's wrong with them and you're fine. The jobs by themselves are skills that you get from doing what you have to do to learn about those skills is all that you need. But with drawing, you have to do something extra that isn't just drawing. So if you're just doing drawing, you're boned because it's about what you can do with your drawings. You have to be doing something unique. You have to be a part of some kind of project. You have to be a part of some kind of team. You can't just go out and draw and get a job and be completely fine. That's not how it works, especially with this advent of AI. So here's the most controversial thing that I have on this video. AI art can be good. 5. Why not treat this like an evolution in our artistic process? So I see a lot of comparison between this and when photography first became a thing, where painters were mad and angry and saying photography is not art. Photography might replace us. We have to reject photography. But the fact is that technology of photography was so beautiful and great that we didn't just get rid of it because the painter said it, because no one really cared about what specifically the painter said, even though it might get a painter out of a job if he just decides to paint realism, because making realism doesn't really make as much sense when you can just snap a photo. And hell, that's basically what's going on here. Why would I pay someone $50 and deal with their personality, whatever it is, or deal with having to wait for the image in the first place, or all this other stuff, when instead I could just go to a bot that can draw what I'm trying to get in seconds, possibly better than what the person can do. And as an animator, why in the world would I continue to spend all that grueling time and money, which in a lot of animation, most of the money goes to the in-between frames. Why would I spend all that money and time on in-between frames when I could have the exact same animators and spend way less time and money just creating the in-between frames with a robot, with a program? It doesn't make any sense if I could just clean them up and save a lot of money and time. Why wouldn't I just do that? And hell, in this situation, nobody's jobs are even being lost. The animators are just doing something a little different. It's also extremely useful for singular creators like one of my favorite YouTubers, Remnant77, who uses AI in his videos as assets in order to save time. Even though he's an artist, he does it to save time and money because, again, he's a single creator. So for single creators and artists, I could see AI being extremely useful, and this is something that's really overlooked, as a lot of people just focus on like companies using AI to replace animators, when honestly that probably will never happen. And this creates a need for artists to have some kind of creative thoughts, some kind of ideas on what they actually want to do with their art, as opposed to just drawing and making commissions. Because a lot of artists, I think they just draw and make commissions, and that's pretty much it. And that's where a lot of the fear from AI comes from. So just like painters way back in the day when the camera was invented, when they were complaining about, hey, what the hell, you guys can just digitally take a photo, that's not art. Instead of that, Why can't we adapt like they did and either use photography or make different kinds of paintings? That's basically all we have to do. We just have to figure out how to actually adapt and or integrate this into our own artistic processes. And when AI gets better, eventually animes like Twin Hiname, how they did it, is probably going to be pretty much more standard. And people like to ignore the fact that, for the anime specific example, animators in Japan are not treated well at all. Those guys are not paid well at all. Like, for example, for the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, those animators were abused horribly, and it had a low budget because the animators were paid rocks. They were paid nothing. They're just paid in crumbs. They're paid in breadcrumbs. They couldn't. So I don't understand why people don't see this as a thing where it's like, this actually is going to help save time, and this actually lets animators breathe a little bit, because they still have to kind of do in between frames, but they just have to fix them up now, because the most labor intensive part of creating any animation can now just be done with the machine. And that's kind of how it's been in like basically every single industry too. The most labor intensive things that are in there used to be done by people, but now machines can do them. Why is making in between frames for animation so controversial when really it just alleviates all that labor intenseness that the in-betweeners are going through, when that's also kind of the least creative part of it? I mean, in-betweens can be pretty damn creative with squash and stretch and all of that, but generally it just sucks. It really sucks, and it's what takes the most time when making animations. You aren't keyframing for most of the time, you aren't coloring for most of the time, you aren't making the backgrounds most of the time. Most of the time you animate, you're doing in-betweens. So if I had a robot that could do in-betweens for me and I just had to go in and fix them, I personally could probably make an animated series easily, all by myself, with just some text, and it wouldn't take an absolutely absurd amount of time. That actually sounds really nice as a single animator. So 6, why is the idea around this to reject this change when this change is inevitable? The best thing to do, in my personal opinion, is to just accept the fact that this is a change and it's going to happen whether you like it or not. And the best thing to do is, again, accept the damn change and just either evolve around it or use the new tools that you have present to you. I've been doing that, not to generate any art, because the art that it generates isn't I don't generate art with the AI because the art isn't good enough for what I'm trying to do, and it can't do cartoony styles, especially ones like mine, very well at all. But instead, why not just use it for simple things like reference, or I don't know, use ChatGPT to help you get your ideas down and what you want to do to form your ideas. And what I have here, number 7, is ways AI can help you now. 1, in between frames. These are all things that I talked about earlier, but right now you could use the AI. Let me see what it was. I saw a video about this. Runway AI. You can use a thing called Runway AI to literally create in between frames. All you have to do is put a keyframe on one side as your starter, and then a keyframe on the other side, and then just let it do your thing. And then you can basically download that video, chop it up into images, and cut it in any way that you need to for your animated project, or whatever frame amount that you need. That's complete. Well, I don't know why. Is that controversial or something to just do that? Because you're not putting in the extra hours of work for in-betweening? When no one, let's be honest, not that many people are analyzing in-between frames for animations. I sure as hell am not, even though it's a highly necessary part of creating animations and understanding what's going on. Actually, technically they're not even 100% necessary for understanding what's going on, as that's what keyframes are for. They're called keyframes because they're necessary to understand how the character is emoting and what the most important motions in their, whatever, I'm explaining animation keyframes now, it's not that deep. So 2, references. A lot of the time, if I'm generating an AI image, then it's either for funnies, like a meme, or it's for a reference. And with the reference thing, I tell it to draw a certain thing in a specific way. And if I don't like it, then I have to tell it again, okay, can you draw it in this way instead? That's what I'm kind of going for. And then it fucks up again. So I say, hey, can you draw it in this way again? And so it messes up a lot. You're going to have to really tweak with it. You're going to have to tweak with it. You're going to have to really tweak it to get exactly what you're trying to go for. But personally, I do think that it is pretty worthwhile if you can't find any references online. And I think I saw maybe a video or two a while ago about why this is bad, but I honestly don't understand why using an AI reference is a bad thing. That doesn't even make any sense, especially with how like solid AI can be sometimes. It doesn't make any sense. So 3, forming ideas. As I said, AI can't help you create ideas, but it can help you workshop ideas where you're like, hey, what do you think of this? What if I do this? And if you just tell it, give you criticism, it will actually tell you if something is stupid or not. It depends on the AI for its likelihood to tell you if it's stupid or not. I know like Grok, for example, it will 100% tell you if something is stupid. And ChatGPT is way too nice a lot of the time. But it actually does help with forming ideas. Like if you have an idea for some way your story is going to go and you just describe your character to the AI and you tell it, hey, I want you to create this scene to see if this feels right. You can workshop it and be like, hey, that does feel right. That does feel wrong. And that saves a lot of time because you don't have to sit down and actually write out those scenes. That you can instead just see an AI generated version of it, which by the way is always going to be infinitely worse than what you can do. You're always going to be better than the AI, honestly. AI is not going to beat you out, but it is useful for seeing if you like the tone of a specific scene, or if you like or if you're just trying to see how these characters could maybe interact. I actually use it a lot when forming how my characters will speak for my comic, in fact, to see if I liked how they're going, instead of making entire big like how I used to. For the same project, I made entire comics, a lot of panels, like 10-page long comics. It'll take me like 2 weeks to do that, 2-3 weeks to do something like that, right? Because I just be working on it off and on kind of. So it'd take me a while to do stuff like that, just to try to get down how the characters speak. Or I'd make really short comics to try and do it. But AI really does help with forming ideas. I don't see any reason as to why that's bad, because the fact is that it can't really generate any new ideas. Now the final point is that we as artists need to adapt. So we're entering this new landscape where you can't just draw stuff and then that's fine. Not anymore. Things are changing. You have to actually do something with your drawings. If you don't do something with your drawings, you're boned. And I think it makes the most sense to integrate AI into your art. The fact is that if you do that, you're probably going to be chilling a lot more. You're probably going to be able to do things way easier and cheaper. You're probably going to be able to animate things by yourself far more easily, especially with the AI in between frames thing. Now, can it make comics? No, I wouldn't say it can make comics because it has serious consistency issues. I mean serious consistency issues. For example, I don't know if I already talked about this, but with ChatGPT, I tried to make a character for it to remember, and every single time I'd have to give it another reference of the character, but even then it would still eventually screw up over and over and over again, even though I gave the exact reference for what the character should exactly look like, and it'll just keep copying what the reference looked like, the pose, the everything. So it's not consistent. It can't be consistent. So an artist is always going to be needed when it comes to handling the AI. I mean, if you're just commissioning something and just if you'd rather just AI generate it and you're like, this is good enough, that makes a lot of sense to me. Instead of having to find a commissioner of the art style that you like and asking them, hey, can you draw this? I'd rather just generate an AI image instead of dealing with the having to pay them money and then whatever their personality is like and then whatever. So we just need artists to adapt. That's all I have to say. And hey, if you disagreed with anything in this video, that's totally fine. We can have a nice conversation about it in the comment section. That would be totally fine and fair and fun, you know, because I'm just trying to make a platform here to have little conversations about art, so I can think a little bit more about how I do things. So yeah, if you just want to have a conversation about this, go on ahead and leave a comment. I'll probably reply. And have a good day, everyone, and subscribe. Also, please watch my freaking webcomic review video that I just made. It's the last video I made. Go watch it.